Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88, and today this will be another rank up, and this time it will be all 9 of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And as you can tell, I am wearing is the Freddy Krueger t-shirt, because Freddy is my man. So I will be ranking up all 9 of the Elm Street series. Yes, the remake, of course, I had to include by it. But even so, Freddy is still my man. So, let's begin. Number 9. The 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. This remake was kind of a letdown, possibly not really my favorite, and thanks to Platinum Dunes that remade most of the horror films, such as the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th, which I liked. But with this remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't know how to describe it. It was such a mess, and during the reshots and redos of all the editing and the scenes that they had shown it in the teaser trailer, but also in the theatrical trailer they had to reshot that too. With Jackie Earle Haley playing the next Freddy Krueger, he didn't do so good. I couldn't even felt seeing Jackie Earle Haley playing as the new Freddy. I know Robert Englund played Freddy Krueger throughout the years, but Jackie Earle Haley? The guy that played Rorschach from Watchmen, he even has the same voice that he played as Rorschach. He did not feel the urge of Freddy, and his background story was completely different. Being from a child murderer to a child molester, that was pretty a bad move for them. And with the characters, I felt they were two-dimensional, and especially with Rooney Mara that played the new Nancy. Every time I see her, she always has that blank face, and I personally didn't really like that. She's barely shown expression and emotional through her character. She wasn't even that tough either. The only thing I just liked were the kills. They were kind of gory and very violent. But with the jump scenes too, that was like so much of a mess, and I wish they could have cut that out. But with this remake, I can only watch it whenever I'm in a bad mood, or if I'm sick, or sometimes I want to watch it once in a blue moon. But for this remake, I had to say is this new Freddy, he gets the slice. Number 8. Freddys Dead, the final nightmare. They saved the best for last? I don't think so. Personally, I wouldn't even call it the final nightmare. And I felt Freddys Dead was just a flat-out comedy spoof horror film. Except it only had was Robert Englund returning to play as Freddy for the 6th time. But it did have a good background story of having Freddy's origin, of how he became the killer, and his childhood was really messed up, including his drunken father. Spoiler alert, it also had big stars that had a cameo such as Tom Arnold and Roseanne, Johnny Depp, and Alice Cooper. Surprisingly, that Freddys Dead wasn't really the biggest finale. It turned out to be just a big joke. Not to mention, with all the puns that Freddy's been using, he took it really too far this time. He was turning to a flat-out Looney Tune character. Maybe he should just join the Looney Tunes and have his own biggest cartoon star ever. Introducing Freddy Krueger, the new Looney Tune character.
Yeah! What do you want?
Sure, it's been my least favorite, but it didn't scare me. Freddy wasn't really that scary anymore. He was really such an entertaining killer, and all his puns were just out of the loop. And the only way to kill Freddy off was a pipe bomb. And his last word was...
Kids.
Number 7. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Freddys Revenge. So after the fully successful of the first film back in 1984, it was time to make another sequel in which Wes Craven did not want to return to do another sequel for Nightmare on Elm Street. This time a new director, Jack Shoulder, directed this second film, and Robert Englund returned for the second time to play as Freddy. And honestly, there has been mixed reviews about it, and it turned out I found Nightmare 2 was pretty much disturbing, if you know what I mean.
Now, part 2 made some good money, but unfortunately, due to all the disturbing scenes, and it felt like that this was a gay movie. Yes, I said it. It was a gay-ass fucking movie. Give me a break, will ya?
And having Freddy possessing Jesse as a human host and trying to get into the real world instead of in the dream world, which that was another problem because they've ignored the rules of between dream world and reality. So I felt that Freddys Revenge was practically a mess and there was no revenge happening. I thought for sure that if Heather Langenkamp returned to play as Nancy, he wanted to get revenge on her, and that would have been a good story. But how to alternating it and with new hosts, I don't think there's no revenge going on here. It's just Freddy like killing everyone in the real world, in which that didn't really make no sense. Part 2 was just only an alternation and just a nightmare movie itself. Number 6. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. The Dream Child. So the 5th installment of the Nightmare series, due to all with the comedy elements that they use and with horror elements, they try to balance it, but I felt like they were unbalancing it a bit. And having Freddy getting out of the boiler room and being into the church, and we only see the 1428 Elm Street house. Scene with all the dark environment that was happening, that was pretty good. With the kills, he didn't do too much. He only killed 3 victims, and overall how it was becoming a less of a horror film, and with all the puns that Freddy's been using too much, it was starting to go downhill. Either way, with Part 5 The Dream Child, at least it was a bit darker, and Freddy was a little dark, but he was starting to become a comical killer. But either way, I think Part 5 should just deserve another chance, and it was a follow-up to old, how should I say, the Dream trilogy. Number 5. Freddy vs. Jason. The moment that everyone's been dying to see, the 2 killers, one psychological hockey mask killer and one dream demon killer, facing off head to head, slicing and dicing each other, seeing who will win and what will be left of them. After from the ending of Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy had a brief cameo, it took them about a decade to get this movie to come in theaters. And having Robert Englund to play as Freddy Krueger from One Last Time, I think this was a perfect finale to end Freddy. Originally, they were going to have Kane Hodder to return to play as Jason Voorhees for One Last Time, but sadly he didn't return, so they had to replace someone else, which was Ken Cressida to play the next Jason. With his performance of playing as Jason, I felt that he was too much of a stiff and he was walking like a giant Frankenstein monster, and I just felt very disappointed because we barely see those two, and not until almost 30 minutes later after the movie that they finally get to fight twice, one in the dream world. The second time they fought was up at the real world at Camp Crystal Lake. When I saw this movie, I thought, hey, this is great, but as I got older, I realized that how much of a waste that is just the victims that are the main characters and the killers were just the secondary characters. And I felt disappointed. I thought for sure they were going to concentrate on Freddy and Jason because this was all about them fighting each other. I think Freddy vs. Jason is just a, what you call, a memorable action horror film.
Oh. Tilt.
Number 4. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. The Dream Master. Part 4 came out in 1988, and along with the other horror films that came out in the same year, Part 4 was my third favorite, and plus with Freddy doing much more of the kills, and it took place on the aftermath of Dream Warriors, which Rodney Eastman and Ken Ziegler's returning to play as none other than Joey and Kincaid. Tuesday Night was the replacement of Patricia Arquette, so she was the new Kristen Parker. So much more likely this was still a continuation of Dream Warriors, and up to the second half we have is now part 4, The Dream Master. But I see there has been major mixture reviews of it, and since I already reviewed part 4, like I said before, part 4 is a good sequel and it's my favorite, but it's not as better than the first film and Dream Warriors, and of course New Nightmare. But seeing Freddy Krueger now, he's much more darker and he started to become a little bit of a goofball, but his kills were really interesting and really creative. Lisa Wilcox playing Alice Johnson and kicking Freddy's ass, that was even pure epic. So The Dream Master is a good sequel, probably my favorite in some people's opinions. So if you don't like my opinions, oh well, deal with it.
Bring me more.
Number 3. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The king of horror himself, Wes Craven, returned to direct this 7th film. I felt this was an anniversary and a tribute to the cast and crews, that some of them did return and some had cameos in it as well from the Nightmare series. But I also felt it was a memorable / a tribute, almost a documentary of this film. And now we see that Freddy Krueger is stepping into the real world, and he's much more darker, more scarier, and more evil. Finally, thank God he lay out some of the punses. Well, some of them, just not too much.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
But he's not too funny anymore. He's really more sinister and evil.
And besides the visual effects, there's also the CGI, the miniatures. It was great. It was terrific. Magnificent, I tell ya. I even love the makeup, how they did with Robert Englund to be as this new and improved Dark Freddy. Now this was actually a lot better than the other sequels.
And Heather Langenkamp returning for the 3rd time, that was even great. But I felt that the story was kind of dragging it down. But either way, the kills really got me motivated, like really waking me up. A couple of jump scares really kind of scared me a little. By the way, New Nightmare was also the biggest finale, to see Freddy going back to hell where he belongs.
Miss me?
Number 2. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Dream Warriors. Now this was the true and the best sequel out of all the Nightmare series. Unlike with Part 2, 5, and 6, it was better. But for New Nightmare and the first film, still doesn't beat it. What was really great is that Freddy's kill was really creative, and it was also gory too. And even so with the music video with Duncan playing the music of Dream Warriors, that was even great. And Heather Langenkamp returning for the 2nd time and teaching the kids how to use their powers and facing off Freddy Krueger so they become as the Dream Warriors. I find it to be my best favorite, my best sequel, and it's practically my number 1. I mean, besides the first film, everyone loves that. But Part 3, it was my favorite. Well, let's not forget that the visual effects were amazing, and Freddy's puns, some were good, but what really blew everybody's minds was that biggest line ever was,
"What's the prime time, bitch?"
That point on, he became an icon. And number 1. Wes Craven's 1984 original and the classic Nightmare on Elm Street. Now this was the original, and director Wes Craven, the king of horror, directed this film and blew everyone's mind. Even it blew my mind. It kind of scared me when I first saw Freddy, where he just like had his arms stretch out and his evil laugh gave me goosebumps and the chills. Personally, this was the first time seeing Robert Englund with the makeup on and becoming the most terrifying dream demon killer. The storyline was perfect, the visual effects were very amazing, and even the characters were amazing too and interesting. And having Johnny Depp, that was his first debut to his film, and that's where he became a big superstar. First Nightmare series will always be my favorite. Much better than the remake and the other sequels, but it's always going to be my number one. So there you have it, folks. Do you agree with my ranks, or is your ranks a little different than mine? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. So whatever you do, folks, don't fall asleep, because Freddy's coming for you. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88's signing off. His saying is, peace!